Thank you so much, and thanks everybody. It's so great to see everybody in a great weather. And I said to Emma in planning this is my favorite topic because everybody's workforce is so disrupted during the pandemic. We're trying to attract talent, we're trying to keep talent, we're trying to motivate people. What's the blend of remote workforce and in-person workforce? How do you keep people engaged? How do you motivate young people? Is tracking good? Is it not good? So I'm going to stop talking because Emma's the star here and helping so many technology companies, and I'm going to ask her to start off. Emma, what's probably the most important topic right now for technology companies, and what advice have you been able to give them?
Yeah, and also I'm so excited to be up here with Virginia. So we, at People Function, we are a startup. We are a startup ourselves, but we are an HR consulting company, and we help startups to build out their human resources function and their people function so that they can be prepared for the growth that they're headed towards. And so really what we're doing is working with founders and leaders and helping them solve the problems that are the most present. And one of the most present problems right now is really how do we even just approach the workforce? How do we respond to the needs of our people? And that has really just changed so much over the last few years in a way that I think no one expected and no one really saw as what could possibly happen from here. So it's really just solving those problems and figuring out, like, what do we do now? Because it is such a different world than the one where where the company began and where we all began our careers.
So, workforce and attendance in the office. How do you engage the new employees? How do you keep employees? How do you balance the fact that the cost of living has gotten higher? How are you blending that coming out of the pandemic and there's a push to get people in the office? How are you blending that and advice for your clients?
Yeah, so I think coming out of the pandemic, we had this, when we've all experienced it, where our priorities have shifted. We've noticed what matters to us. We have a greater sense of our time. It used to be automatic that we were all going into the office 5 days a week, and when we heard that someone was remote 5 days a week, it sounded like exotic and exciting. And now the reverse is true. When I hear someone's going into the office 5 days a week, I'm like, ooh, why? And so I think founders really it's their job now to decide, how is it that I want my team to show up? And am I going to let them have the priorities that they want? Or am I going to put the priorities of the business ahead of some of those other personal priorities that exist? Personally, I believe that our employees need to have autonomy over their time and over their lives. And when they have that autonomy, we talk a ton about output. When they have that autonomy and they have the ability to create the work output that they want and that the business needs, those two things to me are how you do it, is give people autonomy over their times and hold them accountable to those outcomes that the business needs.
Tracking software, everybody's favorite topic. Are you tracking swipes in and out I saw a few chuckles. Are you tracking your employees' swipes in and out of the office? Are you tracking keystrokes? I've seen people where they say, hold on a second, run over, tap on their computer, and then go back. What does tracking software do, and is it something good for a company?
My personal opinion is that tracking software is not good. We have this, when Henry Ford created the 5-day work week, there is this push towards if I have people there and I have people running the assembly line, then I can get out this certain number of cars. But humans don't work that way. Our modern businesses don't work that way. And so swipes in a building, keystrokes on a computer, screenshots of a computer screen does not measure output, does not measure cars out of an assembly line. And so, no. I think the tracking software is something that it is something that is really kind of damaging to the way people look at themselves and their work, because it makes them feel like they are nothing but keystrokes and can be replaced by a computer, can be replaced by something else.
So engagement. I have new employees, somebody new that's joined the company or a junior person. How do we get that person exposure to senior management? So many times in the coffee room or you grab a bite to lunch, you have an opportunity to talk to somebody instead of looking at your computer screen and saying, oh, their light's red, I really can't bother them because they're on Zoom or they're on Teams. So how do you increase engagement for new employees and for junior employees?
Yeah, I do think that's one of the things that is lost when you have people coming to an office less frequently, is you lose out on those casual conversations, and you lose out on bumping into, like, you know, the director while getting coffee. So I do think it takes much more intentionality to build those moments into your culture and into your company when you have a culture that is potentially remote first or is some kind of a hybrid environment. It might mean creating different programs where maybe it's like mentorship programs where you're pairing up more junior team members with more senior team members. Maybe it's creating a program where you're matching people up randomized for conversations cross-functionally, so that you are creating moments of those that connection without the like serendipity of running into someone in the office. So I think it's the challenge for modern businesses is that creating those moments, creating those experiences, and creating that collaboration just takes more intentionality and takes more program building, which is some of the stuff that we do, than it used to. You can't rely on bumping into people anymore, and you just can't rely on those things.
How do you combine? Let's say you're a manufacturer, somehow in your IT capacity, you have people that physically have to be in the office. They have to touch, and there's certain installations they have to do, or certain things they have to. How do you combine a culture with people that physically need to be in the office to do their job, whether it's manufacturing or an IT position I can think of in particular? How do you blend that with a workforce where another function at the same company doesn't need to be in the office every day? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that's a really challenging question. I think that it is about creating equity between those different departments and those teams rather than equalities, which means that you don't need to have the same rule that applies to every single team. It needs to be something that makes sense for each team. So if this team has an in-person element, then they have a specific set of rules. This team has a different set of rules. But the way that you measure their output, the way that you measure that they're doing their work, needs to have some equity between that. So again, it's not about measuring the swipes. Yes, it might mean that one team has to swipe in more. It's about measuring the work that they're doing and ensuring that all of those teams are held to the same performance standards and that they feel like they're held to the same performance standards. So it's never a forcing element. It's it's really about the performance again, and treating those teams with equity, building processes around that.
So I'm a tech company, I'm a startup, I'm trying to attack somebody, and the talented person sitting across the table from me and says, I have an opportunity to work for 2 other companies and they're 100% remote. I can live in Wyoming. What do you say when you need that person to be in the office for at least some period of time so that they can collaborate? How would you advise these people to compete against people that say, we're 100% remote, you can live wherever you want?
Yeah, so I would say if you are creating an environment where you want collaboration, then you have to entice people to come to the office. And that should really be a selling point. So if you're saying, I want you in the office 1 to 2 days a week, it's because you're going to get value out of that time in person and enticing people to be there. So like for our company, we are remote first, but we work together at random WeWorks throughout the city 1 or 2 days a week because we want to work together. We want to be able to poke each other and ask questions, and we want that in-person time. And so again, it's not so much about, well, this company gives me 100% remote opportunity. It's about the fact that I actually want the opportunity to work with my colleagues in person. And so if you're the company that's saying, I need you in person 1 to 2 days a week, I would change that and challenge you to say, I want to create an environment where you actually want to be in person 1 to 2 days a week and you want to collaborate with your colleagues and your peers, and that should be a selling point, not something that you're forcing a person to do.
I find, I don't know if by a raise of hands, sometimes if everybody's 100% remote, do you ever feel isolated when you have a question? Yeah, I mean, the isolation is deafening because you feel funny about calling up 2 levels or over or reaching out for the owner. You might make your manager upset when if you were collaborating or simply walking across the floor. I think that's a huge component about giving a reason for people about why they want to come back to the office rather than, so let's just say, having a standard policy or guarantee, or as you said, do it by department. What are other challenging questions that startups or young technology companies are having right now? What are you spending your time coaching these companies on recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the things that we're coaching on do stem from this environment. And, the fact that people have different sets of needs, and the companies now have to adjust and figure out, like, how is it that I meet all of these needs? How is it that I meet the needs of one person who wants to be in person every day and one person who never wants to in-person collaboration? And creating opportunities for connection, creating, whether it be like performance management processes that supports people's different work styles. So I think that what we're really coaching on now is kind of meeting the moment that's a silly buzzword, but it's just there's so many things combining at once now to create kind of like a eruption of challenges. I don't know.
Who's got a good question? I'll hand the microphone to you. Who's got a good question for Emma? Anybody have a good question? Somebody's got to have a good question. Somebody's got to have a good question. Any topics we haven't covered that you'd like? Okay, good. I think she's got one.
Does someone have one?
Hello, Melanie Franco, Atlantic Health System in New Jersey. We have our group here. Raise your hands. Atlantic Health's in the house. We are the training, support, and classroom trainers. We have a group of 70, but these are the folks that came out today. So the question that we have is, obviously some of what we do needs to be in person. So when COVID hit, everything did go virtual. We can do elbow support virtually, but obviously for practices that are going live on Epic, which is our electronic medical record, they want us in person. So what we see is a lot of people resigning or moving on to other opportunities where they can be 100% remote. So we are trying to do things like this, bringing our team members to events and giving them other opportunities to encourage them to stay, getting them certifications. But at the end of the day, there are some jobs that require us to be on site. How do you kind of encourage folks? And I mean, obviously they are in the office, the CIO is there, they're going to be seeing him in person, the people that are 100% remote won't. But what can we do to let them know that it's not always fair? Not every job can be treated the same in the same department even.
Yeah, I would say it's more about explaining why that and the context behind why that in-person time is so important and the value behind that. So it's not just saying you have to be in the office because we need you in the office, but it's really saying and explaining, here's the value that we get when you're in person, here's the value that we miss out on when you're not, and making it like a clear reason why, and not just, because we said so.
Yeah. Results oriented. I think if the goals are clear, wouldn't you say that you've had to rework the goals with people as a result of the combination of the workforce, maybe even redefining? I've seen schedules where over 10 days there's 50% attendance, so then people try to come to some consensus about when they're going to be in. Maybe accounts payables in on Tuesdays, maybe the IT people are in on Thursdays. But it works better. Give a little bit longer period of time because people are managing child care, dog, cat care, elder care. A lot of people took on elder care. I see a lot of smiles on the dog, cat care. I'm one. So you have to give people maybe a longer period of time to to kind of be flexible on it. But yay, Atlantic Health. What a great leader. Well, listen, Emma, thank you so much for your insights today.
And thank you, Virginia.
It's great to see all of you here.
Yeah.
And reach out to Emma directly with any questions that you have. She's fantastic. I'm working with her with Tech United, and she's been extremely helpful. So thank you so much.